Hey, welcome everybody to our little corner of Trek Talks for the next half hour or so. This is an amazing day, and we've got an amazing topic here that's just burst on the Star Trek scene. Documenting is something that's been around obviously forever, for a long time with Star Trek especially, and it's such a fertile ground to get into. So thanks everybody if you've been watching the telethon today, the webathon, and for donating, keep at it. But for a while, we're going to talk about the center seat, which, if you've been under a rock or something somewhere, has been this wonderful multi-part. In fact, I think it's the biggest ever documentary examination about a TV series, much less Star Trek. And this panel is so great. Let's just dive right in very quickly. I'm going to say quick hellos to everybody. First off, if you don't know, I'm Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, an author and a host. We do everything in Trekland. I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Trekland in Portal 47. And I was very fortunate to be a talking guest for the center seat, as was our next group here, Mary Jo and Jo Tenuto, who are professors of sociology at Lake County College in Iowa and in Illinois. Sorry about that. And experts and academics, researchers. I know you guys have gotten into the papers of Nick Meyer at the University of Iowa, for one thing.
Great college.
And you even dabble in that other cross-stream Star Wars. So thanks for being with us, John.
Thank you.
Yeah. And a dancer, choreographer, writer, director, live theater, film, TV. And I think she was even associated with a little TV show called Star Trek: The Next Generation. But we're so thrilled to have Gates McFadden with us. Gates was also the voiceover narrator, superb narrator, may I say. Thanks, Gates, for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. It was so much fun working on it.
And I should also say the host of the podcast, Gates Investigates, basically, who do you think you are? And of course, the guy who's the head of this center seat thing. And I want to ask him here a couple of things too. We'll get into that. But Brian Volk-Weiss, thank you, head of the Nacelle Company and the producer of the series, and the reason why we're having this panel today. So thanks, Brian, for jumping in.
Thank you. Thank all of you. It's good to see everybody.
It is. And again, we've only got about 25 minutes. So let me just start with this. So Brian, can you tell us how the center seat came about, and is it maybe the biggest project you've undertaken since you came from this comedy and music specials and production background, and then got into all things geekery?
Yeah. So first of all,
most familiar to me being the toys that made us, for one thing, out there for everybody.
Right. No, not to split hairs. No music. I'm still trying to get into music. But you're right. We did start with comedy. Not me. You don't have to worry about me singing or playing saxophone. But no, you hit the nail on the head. We do these shows, toys that made us, movies that made us. I'm a lifelong Trekkie, and our civilization apparently cares quite a bit every 5 years to celebrate things that are still going on. So we had done this other Star Trek celebration for the 50th. So it was 5 years later. So it was like, well, A, why don't we do it again? Full disclosure, I was not very happy with how the 50th turned out. But two, it had been a while, and we had learned a lot from so many of the shows that we had made. So people wanted to celebrate it. We wanted to make it, and we just decided to make it. And luckily, History Channel came on board, and we made it with them.
Well, what gets me is just the scope. Mm-hmm. That was interesting. What gets me is sorry about that. That was the scope. The scope of this is what gets me. Is this the biggest thing you've tackled? 10, it's wound up being 10 parts.
Yes. So in the post Toys That Made Us aspect of the company's career or whatever, yes, it's the biggest. And it was designed to have scope. One of the things I've noticed is, I would have to say I've probably seen 99% of every Star Trek documentary ever made. And one of the things I noticed is, because they're all made separately over the course of many years, there's a lot of redundancy in the information. And that's nobody's fault. These are all great filmmakers doing their thing, but they're just not coordinated. because like I said, they're all over the world making them separately. So one of the things we deliberately tried to do from the beginning, which we learned from movies that made us, was to have arcs over every, I envisioned it always as Lucille Ball and Gene, of course, turn the lights on, Berman turns the lights off, which by utter coincidence, when we were interviewing him, fun fact, I don't know what Gates would say, but of all the interviews, nobody understands how we got. All of those are because of Gates. Let me start with that. But of that group, I would say the biggest and most surprising, I believe it's Berman's second interview ever about Star Trek. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what you would know, Larry. But
well, I know he did one for the TV Academy for their big, collection.
Right. Right. That's what I heard. I heard that was the first and we were the second. Don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard. But he literally said, and we didn't even ask him to, that he turned the lights out and then left. So we could actually put that in the show. And that's the penultimate moment of the final episode.
Well, I want to get to everybody too, but it strikes me how even the toys that made us, the movies that made, those are 6, 8 episodes per season, but you're doing a different subject. And no one has tackled Star Trek over that many hours. And I also know that you got your order boosted after you got going and could deliver a couple of previews, but right. Has anyone ever tackled anyone else? Has anyone ever tackled anything else to this degree, like any other TV show, any other movie in 10 hours? Seems
Gates. Who am I having the brain fart on? What the guy, what's his name? The greatest documentarian ever. What's his name?
What?
Kevin Burns?
Yes, thank you. Kevin Burns. Oh. And by the way,
yeah, right.
I mean,
Ken Burns.
Ken Burns, yeah. He really was the inspiration in many ways, because it was like, when I first heard there was going to be a 20 episode actually series about Gettysburg, and I'm a huge Civil War buff, I was like, how are you going to do 20 episodes on the Gettysburg? That's stupid. That's insane. And then I've bought the VHS, I've bought the DVD, I bought the Blu-ray. So that's what we tried to do. And it's funny. Can I tell our Ken Burns miscommunication, Gates? Do you mind? So I said, when I called Gates, and I already knew Gates thanks to the podcast, I said to Gates, this is like the Ken Burns, like Star Trek Ken Burns. She's like, great. I'll have my agent call you. We'll work it out. That's awesome. I love it. Her agent calls me. Everything's going great. And then he's like, but Brian, I got to ask you, how did you get Ken Burns to direct your series? I thought he only directs his own stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I do mumble. So let me explain the miscommunication. So yes, so Ken Burns actually was, I forgot about it, but a big part of it.
Yeah, but then, I had to call Ken Burns, and I just looked him up in the phone book, and I said, Ken, should I do this or not? I don't know. And he said, yeah, do it. So no, I'm making that up completely.
He's always been very supportive.
Ken Burns, very big supporter of Starfleet Medical. So Gates, I want to back up a second. I want to know how because obviously you guys cross paths working on your podcast. What was and I know you've told this too, but can you tell us briefly again how the podcast started, and then what was the segue? You said, Brian, got to let me narrate this thing. What?
No. I mean, really, I think it was COVID that started the whole thing in a way, because so COVID happened, and I just got back from the cruise and got COVID, by the way. Then I was like, I guess we're all going to kind of be quarantined here for a long time. And then Brian called me, introduced himself to me, right? I don't think I knew you.
Well, and Ian gave you a heads up.
Yeah. Ian gave me a heads up, and I loved Ian, and I knew Ian. So he told me, and I think, he wants you to do a podcast. I said, talk to him. And I'm like, really? Like, me? Why? I thought it was the worst idea I ever heard, to be honest. I was like, that was the first thing I said, I'm very flattered, but why me? And he's going, you'd be perfect. He's such a salesman, this guy. He's like amazing. And and your just ego's getting stroked and you're going, oh, I guess I am the one to do it. No, I don't know what happened. I told the story, which is absolute truth, that I had turned it down a couple times. And then I kept going, who the hell am I to keep turning down? Someone comes to you with this golden opportunity. Hey, get it together, girl. Think about this. And so I went to my friend's house and we were there with their dog. And I've told this story and it's the absolute truth. And the dog had not let me touch him, this dog. So cute. And I said, okay, we'll let Luna decide. All right, if she takes a biscuit from this hand, I'm not doing it. If she takes a biscuit from this hand, I'm doing it. And the dog was like intensely thinking about my life and career and was going back and forth like I'm not kidding you. It was like 5 minutes and I started to sweat and she just is going in and it's like, no, don't do it. And then she fakes us all out and she takes the one and I'm doing it. And I went, well, fuck, I guess I'm doing it. I guess I'm doing it. Luna says. And so I did. And it was great. That's what it takes to get me to do things, I guess.
If animals pick the Super Bowl winner, Gates, your career choices are much more important.
I know. See, there you go.
There you go. Well, hey, John, Mary Jo, I know you've worked with Brian. You were in The Toys That Made Us. And I said you crossed over and did the other side, some Star Wars features too. So but you've been writing and publishing and doing articles. This media explosion the last few years has been great because I love you guys and you've done so much work, deep work and getting it out there. But what's been like working for you? What's been the fun part? And, what's been the best part of the center seat for you?
Well, I think, one of
the check.
Thank you. That's great. We really like the idea of finding ways to make the credits come alive, in a show. We're always agitated. You watch a TV show and the credits zoom down to the bottom and they start the next episode and you're like, I want to know who wrote that. I want to know who made that. And so for us to be able to sort of research and talk to both because of the Center Seat After Show podcast and just through our own research, just to talk to the people in front of the camera, like Gates and the actors that make the show as the characters, and then the people who do everything from the dolly grips to, I'm fascinated by dolly grips, who figure out how to level a camera in a strange location and lay down track and figure out how to make that camera move the way the cinematographer and the director and the actor can give us what we want. So for me anyway, I love that if at the end of a lecture or a book or something that we've done, people can look at the screen and go, oh, I know what that person does. I know who that person is, and the credits become even more important, or we understand the contributions of the behind the scenes artists.
You're preaching to the choir here because that's what Portal 47 is all about. Because all those folks contribute. We love the cast, Gates, but there are so many people who have a hand in making Star Trek, what it is, and they don't always get a spot on a convention stage.
They don't, and I completely agree because. It's a big family. It's not just the cast. There's this whole energy and people are so skilled and they do such good work. There's so many people in a makeup department, so many people in the costume department, all of these things that people just are now starting to realize because of these behind the scene things and because people are doing documentaries and they're getting inspired and young people are going, I want to do that. I want to be a pattern maker. I want to, make the dolly go like that. That's what's fabulous.
Yeah. We enjoy doing the research and exploring the what ifs and seeing how stories have changed, how characters have changed, and doing some myth busting along the way as well.
We are of like mind. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, we're talking about the process of behind the scenes. Brian, the behind the scenes on the center seat. Somebody mentioned the other day that there's not like a writer credited on any one or all the episodes. Is that just kind of the way the nacelle company is operating when you do documentaries? You have a team?
Yes. For all I know, other companies do it too. So we may have pioneered this, but I doubt it. But everybody writes. I write, Ian writes, a lot of our editors write. We're all writing. Gates was rewriting VO.
Yeah, I can lines. Yeah, it's true.
So
and it's really cool. It's really cool that you are open to that. There's a great energy. I have to say, I loved every minute of it. You have a phenomenal team. I didn't know any of them except for Ian. And it was so much fun. We laughed so hard doing different things. And then we were also really like sad. I mean, it was great. I got really involved. I loved it.
Well, I have to say, Gates, it's the writing is great, and Brian too. The pivots that you guys make. The one thing I was worried about when I did mine, and a shout out to Ian Remain, by the way, who was great, who was my interviewer, yes, and absolutely. We just hit. He would not. He kept asking. He was just a beggar, and I had to keep going back. But I love the way the final script comes out and the way you deliver it, Gates, because there are these pivots on a dime. You know, when you transition or you get a pun in, but we don't linger on it, or there's some little winky joke and it just moves on and you get to enjoy it if you get it. And if you don't, it moves on and you're off to something else. And they wrote it and you deliver it just wonderfully.
Yes, but I want to say something about that, because I have a reasonably complicated job that does a lot of different things that are unusual for one job. I love every single part of my job with one exception, and that is figuring out who's doing the voiceovers for our shows. I am like an anti-procrastinator. I do everything ahead of time. You ask my wife, you ask the people I work with, I figure out everything ahead of time. I procrastinate all the time to pick the VO, and I hate it. It's so hard to get right. So when we did season 1 of Toys That Made Us, we're literally auditioning hundreds of people. We couldn't find anybody. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I looked at my schedule. They had booked 8 hours for me to do the VO for the first episode. I was like, 8 hours? Like, I'll bang this out in 2 hours. Like, what are you talking about? When we hit the 8-hour mark, I don't think we had done 12% of the episode. Yes. So I was like, and by the way, fun fact, I did it with this like American Steve Austin accent. Like, it's so hard and such a terrible thing to do if you're not good at it. So I procrastinated. During the procrastination, I'm listening to the rough cuts of Gates's podcast. And I'm like, why the fuck don't we ask Gates? She's on the show. She's got a great voice. She's a respected person from what we're talking about. By the way, by the grace of God, she says yes. But the first one, so every episode's an hour. I think the first one, and if Gates, if I'm wrong, please just tell me. I think Gates's first one took maybe 2 hours. After that, they were like 8 to 15 minutes longer than the actual, like, she just can do it. Like, she just gets it. And that's also while improvising. So, yeah.
Well,
I hope you feed your dog well now, Gates. I really hope you do.
You know, listen, the thing that was fun about improvising, like Thomas Cassetta, who was on the mic, as well as Ian, those two were in the engineering. And the three of us have the same sense of humor. So I could say something the first time, and we just got to the point where it was like, no, funnier. And then you do it. No, dry. No, now hit it hard. I mean, we could just do it, and we had fun, and we could all figure out which one is the one that's going to work. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, my marriage has worked.
Why, there's John.
Hit it hard. Yet here we are, still together. Forgive me for intruding. We're getting
no, John. We're going to give you the center seat.
Right.
Wrap it up, though, Larry. Put a bow on it for me, would you?
Star Trek one line, by the way. I get asked fairly often, which cracks me up, this being a Star Trek show with a Star Trek quote, but that is a very obscure line from the motion picture.
We overlapped.
The center seat.
Oh, yeah.
I know you know, Larry.
Well, it's a generic term, but yeah, they got to use it on film. John, how are we doing out there in the wide world? We're having a great time in here talking, but how is it going?
First of all, I can't thank you all enough for participating. It means the world to us. We've never done this before. The overwhelming response from everybody we invited was damn straight. Gates, who's been a supporter of ours for a while. Mwah. We are doing very well. We are pushing well past $16,000. I'd really love to see if maybe with a little more energy, we might get up to 20,000 by the end of the next panel or two. I'm going to keep that $40 offer going. If you make $40 donations, I will put $10 to match to make it a $50 donation. Wow. So keep them coming in. Our next video, we're introducing the Hollywood Food Coalition through videos, interstitially. is going to introduce our third pillar, which we call the Community Wellness Program. In addition to providing emergency services for people in need every night of the year, from shoes and socks and toiletry kits and underwear and clothing and hats and gloves and sleeping bags and tents and bus passes and laundry vouchers, we also collaborate with the UCLA Mobile Medical Clinic. They come to our campus every week, young, sexy doctors, well, 90% of them are sexy, who help people in need. You're going to see a video about how we do that work. Again, thank you so much for supporting the Hollywood Food Coalition. And thank you, wonderful panelists.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm a monthly
Wreck well.
donor. Be a monthly donor. I'm a monthly donor. Do it.
Monthly donor, monthly donor, monthly donor, monthly donor.